Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and welcome to another study level airliner in Flight Simulator 2024. Thrustmaster made their aircraft compatible, so we now have an open beta MD-82 in the new simulator. Even though it officially is an open beta aircraft, it's working pretty well, so I'm excited to take you on this flight from Cartagena to Bogota today. Alright, let's start with a quick walk around, as the MD-80 certainly deserves to be seen. And once that is done, I'll show you a little cool feature and then we'll head inside. But let's start with the basics. So, in general, we are looking at a pretty good looking model. However, that is when seen from a little bit of a distance. You can see that getting close up, some of the details are 2D only, and not everything is as high a detail as, for example, the Phoenix aircraft or even the Builds aircraft that we have in the sim, but nonetheless it is still a good looking model in my opinion. Its age does show a little bit, however it's still a good looking model. I think that's probably the best we can say there. So looking at the leading edge of the wing, it does look a little bit used, which is something that I do really like for an older aircraft. Getting over here on the side of the wing, we can see a little mismatch between the actual landing light and the landing light texture. And it is worth mentioning that this is one of the liveries created by Leonardo themselves, so this is not a third-party livery per se. Alright, so walking around the iconic T-tail of the MD-82, and you can see that I'm still showing one of the reversers deployed there. Now this sometimes happens because it seems that for some reason with the MD-80 I need to reselect my thrust levers every single time that I change liveries. So for every new livery installed, I kind of need to reset my controls, which is a little bit annoying, but then again is not too much work either. So really nice to see. The flaps are slightly deployed here with the aircraft's hydraulics not pressurized. Well, and that's the outside model of the MD-82. Now let's go a little bit further to the front, where Leonardo have built a really neat feature into the aircraft. That's if you click on the handle of the doors, you will actually see that the door is opening, which as far as airliners are concerned, as far as I'm aware, is a first in Flight Simulator 2024. The same also applies for the air stairs down here, which extend when you click on them. Now, these kind of features do exist in some default FS-24 aircraft. Think for example the business jets, but really nice to see these kind of things done in an airliner as well, as this is typically how pilots would approach the aircraft for the first flight of the day. Now let's get inside and have a look at the inside model. We're going to start down here in the cockpit, and later on in flight we are going to have a quick look at the cabin as well. Again, the typical Leonardo model that we all got to know and love. Just a great looking plane, isn't it? Alright, with all of that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get the aircraft flying. So, starting with the basics, we can turn on the battery switch down here. So battery on and locked. Then the wiper selector is off, the landing gear lever is down, the hydraulic pumps are off. Alright, the flap and slat lever is in the up retracted position, the speed brake is retracted, circuit breakers are checked. We don't need an APU just yet. We are going to start with the external power today, which is not connected just yet, so let's go down into the electronic flight bag and call for the external power down here. It is worth mentioning that the EFB runs off battery power, so when it's empty, then it's empty. So do keep that in mind when you are running the aircraft. So let's go to ground, GPU, and now we do have ground power unit available, and now we have it connected to the aircraft itself. So let's go ahead with the APU, and we're gonna start with the fire tests here.
Fire left engine.
Alright, silence and thank you. Then we turn on one of the fuel pumps, APU master to run, and then APU master to on. Now it is going to take a little while until the APU actually starts spooling up. And we just got to keep that master in the start position until the APU start is well underway. So let's give it a couple percents up here for the APU to start up, which is a really neat feature. Many developers would probably have done this by just holding the starter switch themselves without any user input, but that's not how it's done in the Mad Dog. So let's give it some 30% or so, and then we can release the APU starter. Here we go, into the run position. And here we go, APU is starting. The reason I want to have the APU right now is obviously visible right down here, 31 degrees outside, so we definitely need that thing to power up and to cool our aircraft. So with those basics now out of the way, let's go ahead and do the emergency light test.
PA and emergency light test.
Alright, so that's the emergency light test. Okay. Perfect. Then, emergency lights are in the arm position. The seatbelts are off for the time being. We do currently have 7,000 kilos of fuel on board. We actually got to check. Yeah, this is kilos, not pounds. Well, and then let's head over into the electronic flight bag. We're going to start on the electronic flight folder where we can import our SimBrief OFP, which we have available right here. Then let's have a look into the weather. And we can see that our destination, Bogota, is showing good weather for the time being, and it's supposed to stay that way as well, up to 20 degrees today, and we have southeasterly winds. Our departure in Cartagena, northwesterly winds at 17 knots, 31 degrees, and finally our alternate in Cordova is pretty good as well. Some CBs in the area, but TCU, CB, NOSIG, not too bad really. So overall, good weather conditions. Now, just for the sake of it, let's take a tiny bit extra fuel, maybe like 15 minutes or so because of those CBs, just to be on the safe side here. And looking down here, final reserves, half an hour, equals 1,200 kilos. So if we take 600 extra, then we should be more than fine. So we have 6.8 takeoff fuel, then 300 taxi plus 600 extra. So basically 6.8 plus 900 is 7.7. So with that, let's go over into the weight and balance tab. You can see over here the SimBrief data has already been imported. And we just want to change that fuel. 7.7, so that's 3,800-ish per tank. 3,850. So 3,850 here, 3,850 there. And that's it. Alright, so that's the pre-selected values. Now, let's go down into the aircraft services, and you can see that over here, we do have the ground menu, where you've got the requested fuel, and then you could either do refueling over the services here, or you can just go and control your GSX services here, which is pretty cool, isn't it? So let's request refueling, and then let's also request our boarding. I do really like that. You can see up here, it's now updating our passenger numbers. So, pretty cool services. Also in here, you've got the aircraft options page, on which you can really do a lot of things, including changing the FMS that's installed in your aircraft, changing the units, and so on. So, really cool stuff that you can do in this aircraft. Alright, so, boarding is now well underway, and with that, I suggest we are going to continue with our pre-flight setup. So the station lights are set, the display brightness is up, the pressurization control lever is in the auto position, the trims are free and 0. Well, the outside inspection is already completed, so then let's start with our cockpit preparation. And traditionally that is done from the first officer seat by McDonnell Douglas procedures. So we're going to start to do that from right here. Looks kind of weird to sit inside that 3D model though. Oh well, let's give this a go. Alright, APU is available, so let's bring it online, turn on the air conditioning and turn on the packs. Alright, and then we can start with our flight deck inspection right up here. So, voice recorder test, hold for 5 seconds. And here we go, voice recorder test is okay. Then moving further down, the electrical system is set, galley power on for the time being. Ignition off, we have 1 fuel pump for the APU. The seatbelts remain off since refueling is still to be carried out. We have 7.7 now, so seatbelts can come on. Then the windshield anti-ice comes on, and a quick check of the pitot and static system, which we can see works well. Alright, so then we can go on to the next flight over here, and today it is the 12th of February, and we are flying flight number 8557. So 855 and 7. It's the first leg of the day, so let's insert that. And then up here we get to a whole bunch of warning systems. Gonna start with the GPWS.
Pull up. Terrain. Pull up.
Onto the wind shear system.
Headwind, shear, headwind, shear,
Oh,
headwind.
hello
shear.
there.
Tailwind,
So wind shear over here,
tailwind,
wind shear
shear,
down here, and of course we do
shear.
get the warning. Then next up we do the anti-skid test. For that we watch the caution panel right down here. And that's looking good. Then we can do the stall test,
Stall. Stall.
overspeed test,
Overspeed.
ice FOD test. Looking good. Alright, and then let's go a little bit further down and check the QNH at our destination airport. For that we can have another quick look into the plan. So, Bogota, 18 degrees and 1024, and obviously fairly high field elevation, which we'll get to in a few moments. So, 1024, and now comes the challenge of the field elevation. For that we actually gotta have a look into our charts, which we can find down here. So, destination, Bogota, just give me an approach chart here, 14, let's say 14 right, Zulu. Alright, and that shows us an elevation of 8,300 feet. So that's about as high as it gets. Alright, so let's scroll this up a little bit, looking for around 8,300. Here it is. That's probably got to be the highest elevation at which I've ever landed an MD-80. And I did fly quite a couple of MD-80s already in my simulation career. Alright, so the warning and caution light test is okay. Then let's move down to the main panel. We already did the fire test. We do have the reverser on lock glide over here. Maybe we can fix that by powering up the hydraulics real quick. Yeah, now the reverser is stowed, and the flaps are also coming up. Perfect. Alright, looking good. Apart from that, standby instruments. Here we go, are aligned. We'll do the altimeter later on, and the hydraulics are back off again. So that's everything over here. Quick check of the pressurization system. Looking excellent. Then Squawk 2000. And the flight ID is going to be, let's see, I believe it's Avianca 8557, but I might be mistaken there, so let's check it before entering something. 8559. Okay. And if it is 8559, then we better got it inserted up here as well. So that's the flight recorder set. So Alpha, Victor, Alpha, 8559. Enter. Alright, transponder set up. Then 121.5. And we should have data in the COM number 3, 1228 in COM 1, and that is everything we need down here. Crossbleeds can already be opened. Perfect. So now we go over to the pilot station, and in here we can straight away start with our FMS, where we have a couple of things to take care of. MD-82, JT8D engine, and we do have a current nav database installed. And with that, let's go over into the ACARS system and set that one up. So, initialize data, you can do a data request, and the data is being pulled straight from SimBrief, which is something that I do really like. Alright, here's our flight data. Then let's go into the weight and balance. So, trip fuel. $3,538. Right, taxi fuel is 380, block fuel 7,700, and we're at sea level, so no need to do an RTOW calculation. We basically know it's going to be max takeoff weight, so let's send that stuff out. Then I'm also going to run a flight plan request, and last but not least, let's go over into the weather requests and request an ATIS. Okay, so we're in Sierra Kilo Charlie Golf. We need a departure ATIS, and we can send that. Alright, so crew message. Preliminary weights 48.4. As zero fuel weight. We'll just leave all the stuff as it is. Then ATIS. Nil. Okay, so we gotta do a weather request later on, and the flight plan has already arrived, but we'll talk about that in a few moments. So let's just do a weather request then, and we want Sierra Kilo Charlie Golf. Send. Okay, weather report from 1800 Zulu, which is basically almost an hour old, so a new one should come out in 10 minutes. 340 at 17 QNH 1008. And 1008 is set everywhere. Wonderful. So with that, the flight instruments are basically done. Let's go down into the actual FMS setup. We are going to use the GPS position today. Our route is a fairly easy one, so Sierra Kilo Charlie Golf to Sierra Kilo Bravo Oscar. And we are departing off runway 01. Let's see, our route is the SCAP 2 Alpha departure towards Ugalu. And our arrival is going to be an ILS Zulu approach, runway 14 right. And we've got the Atana for Echo arrival, which is this one. Okay, so quick check of the Lex page to see where this takes us. Straight in. Perfect. So nothing more we need to do up here. Alright, let's fix the... Let's fix the discontinuity on the Lex page, like that. Alright, and that's the entire route, which has a length of... Probably gotta activate it first. A length of 419 miles. Versus 422 on the flight plan, so that's just about perfect. Well then, on to the performance initialization, and for this I am gonna help myself by looking at the ACAS received preliminaries here. Respectively, we could also just have a look at the flight plan over here, which is basically the Simri flight plan that has been imported. So zero fuel 48.4. The reserves are 3 tons exactly, fuel on board 7.7 with a normal schedule. Cruise flight level, I think it's 330. No, 360. It's pretty high. Okay, wind 220 at 25. The ISI deviation today is, well, top of climb temperature minus 46. Transition altitude 18,000, we gotta check that one on the chart, so let's head right over into the EFB again. Charts, departure Cartagena, taxi, and here we go, we can pin that one. And then our sit. Here we go, I think that's the one, isn't it? SCAP 2 Alpha. Actually, the ILMIC would make much more sense, wouldn't it? Let's have another look here. So we go towards Ugalu. Yeah, absolutely. We gotta take the Ilmic to Alpha. Otherwise we turn into the wrong direction. Alright, so Simbrief did not choose the best sit here. So, Ilmic to Alpha, Ugalu, and execute. Then let's go down into the legs page, fix that. Alright, so we have waypoint 901, Ilmic, Ugalu. And that's pretty much what the chart says over here as well. So, 901 above 990, then Ilmic maximum 210 above 4000, which we have, and then towards Ugalu above 10,000 and Atana 18,000. So, Ugalu above 10,000 and we have all of that. So, transition altitude 18,000. Which again is checked down here. Then we don't really need to enter anything on the takeoff page just yet. On the climb page, everything is inserted and looking good, including the econ speed. Well, and that's it. That's our FMS setup completed. So with that out of the way, the only thing for us to do is to set up our FCU, or Flight Guidance Control Panel as McDonnell Douglas calls it. So I will just enter the ILS 111.3 with a course 010. Here we go. Heading goes to the runway heading 010. Altitude, I don't know, maybe 5,000 or so for the initial climb. Flight directors are coming on 111.3 and course 010. Lights on, and well, that's pretty much it. Okay, so that much about the basics of our setup. Let's press the toga button to get the correct FMA, and that's it. With that, our aircraft is basically ready to go. And looking into the ACARS, we have just received the load sheet, the final one. So let's go ahead and dial that up. Zero fuel weight 48.4, which we've got in here, and 48.4 in here as well. Okay. Takeoff fuel 7.4, and that leads to an arrival. Landing weight 52.3. Okay, acknowledge. And then the zero fuel weight CG is 12.4. Here we go, 12.4. And then let's run the takeoff performance calculations, which we can find on the performance page. So let's pull the weather up again. Winds 340 at 17. Temperature 31 and the QNH 1008. Okay, so far so good. Takeoff weight from the load sheet is 55,806. Alright, runway length reduction from runway start. Let's take 100 meters just to be on the safe side for the calculations. And then let's see what we're going to get. Okay, flaps 11.5 and 50 degrees flex temperature. So takeoff flex 50 and the flaps 11.5, which is pretty much here. And here. Cool. Okay, so speeds 128, 133, 142. So we have 128, 133, 142. Right, let's set the box over here. And 142 in here as well. Perfect. And that's it. So, with that, our EFIS is set as well over there, and let's do the right side as well. I want the data, I want a map with a minimum range, and that's it. Okay, cool. So that's all the basic setup completed. Well then, let's see. The cockpit door is closed already. We are running on the APU, so they can remove the ground power. We can do that right down here on the services again. So aft stair still open because we don't have hydraulics applied. And then, let's see. GSX? No? Okay. Looks like I can't click on here. Maybe GSX has hung itself up again. But let's see, I will just turn the pumps on. Maybe it works now. No, it doesn't. So out here all the services seem completed. So we should be able to get ourselves a tuck. But yeah, looks like the EFB doesn't want to communicate with GSX anymore. What happens up here? Nothing. Ah, lovely. Okay, so what do we do now? Suppose we're gonna give it a little bit of time. How do we get rid of this one? Hello? Such an annoying program, really. In any case, let's say hello to our passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel in the name of Avianca. Welcome aboard flight 8559 to Bogota. Today's flight time will be around 1 hour and 15 minutes in an altitude of 36,000 feet. We expect a smooth flight, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the trip with us. If there's anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask any of our charming cabin crew. Thank you very much for your attention, and please pay your full attention to the cabin crew safety demonstration that is going to commence shortly. Thank you for your attention, and again, welcome on board. Okay, so how can I get rid of that GSX menu up here now? Just close it, please. Now it's gone. Now it's gone. Okay. Well, let's try once more. No. Really incredible. Alright, park and brake is set. Maybe that's the problem? Yeah, maybe. Right, prepare position for pushback and departure. Start engines before pushback? No. Okay, and then let's start with the cockpit preparation checklist, please. DFDR set, AHRS alignment checked, FMS set, emergency lights test armed, no smoking signs on, windshield anti-ice on, engine sync off, store warning tested, air conditioning supply on, position and strobe lights both, fire protection tested, TRI tested, fuel quantity 7,700 kilograms, altimeters, QNH 1008, reading 60, set left, set right, fuel shut off, closed, and cabin pressurization auto, cockpit crew checklist complete. Alright, are you ready for the departure briefing? So, let's go. We're departing Cartagena, runway 01, and our sit is the Ilmin to Alpha departure towards Ugalu. Initial climb 5,000, and the MSA is 3,000, as we basically have water straight ahead. Anything to add? No? Okay, then we have no hotspots for the taxi. We gotta backtrack the runway for a full-length departure, however. And in case of an engine failure, we proceed on the runway track 25 miles out. We have the ILS of runway 01 tuned, so we can basically fly the localizer out on a back course. Now, immediate return is possible. The runway here in Cartagena is long enough, equipped with an ILS, and good facilities available. And that's basically all I have. I have no specials. Well, actually, I do have one special. That's if we take a look down here at our takeoff data, we can see our clean speed is 229, and we do have a 210 knot speed restriction on ILMIC. So we gotta keep the slats extended for the initial part of the flight. Well, and that's it. Any questions? No? Wonderful. Then let's go ahead and prepare our aircraft for the pushback. Okay, so... before start checklist, please. Parking brake and pressure. Set and checked. Pneumatic pressure. 42 psi. Engine ignition. B. Tank pumps. Left and right tanks on. Seatbelts on. Anti-collision light on. APU norm econ. Norm. Air conditioning supply. Off. Galley power. That's the one I always forget. Off. Pneumatic thrust feeds. Open. Thrust lever. Idle. Before start checklist complete. So, ground flight deck. Go ahead. Alright, push is approved and the parking brake is set. Roger, release your parking brake, please. And we go nose to the left, please. Parking brake is released. Roger, start the push and you're clear to start both engines. Roger. Right, call from the cabin crew down there. Hello? Hello? No? Well, then not. They probably want to complain that it's getting too hot, I guess, since we turned off the air conditioning. How hot is it actually? 24 degrees. Yeah, that's not too bad. Alright. Let's go ahead with our engine start, though. So we are basically clear of the road already, at least with the engines. Alright, ready to start? Then sequence 1, then 2, starting engine 1. N2. Oil pressure. N1. EGT. What is this? Is that the mouth of the wing walker? That's looking good. That's looking like really good. Alright, I've seen enough of that, thank you. So, started cutout and starting right engine. Okay, clear right. So we have N2, oil pressure, N1, and the pushback is complete, set brakes. Okay, parking brake is set. Fuel coming on. EGT. Okay, reaching 45%. Start a cutout. And with that, we've got 2 good starts. Clear to disconnect. Show me the clear signal on the left, please. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Okay, trim is set. What's that master caution? Pitot stall lead off. Okay, very good point. Okay, there's the tuck, there's the tow bar. And there's the ramp agent holding a pin in the hands. Can we see him anywhere? Nicely hidden in the middle. Alright, in any case, that's the agent with the pin, clear signal received after start checklist. Electrical system. Checked. Galley power on. Engine ignition off. Pitot and static heaters on capped. Anti-ice off. Air conditioning supply on. And, or rather auto. Door lights out. Hydraulic system on and high. After start checklist complete. So we are clear on the left side, and we are clear on the right side. Let's bring up the taxi charts. And then we are up here on the main apron. We're going to taxi via Alpha and then backtrack all the way via Delta to line up on runway 01. Okay, taxi. Brake check. Brakes normal. So, 40% N1, we just about get it rolling. Okay, clear right side.
Approaching 19.
Clear left side. And entering runway 19. Strobe light is on.
On runway 19.
Intentionally.
1,500 meters remaining.
Okay, and here we go. So, actually auto brake stays off for a second. Let's do the flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. And we already know that the rudder is working. Might be a little Airbus.
Caution! Short runway! Short runway!
Yeah, don't complain. We are not taking off just yet. We can go up to 50 knots backtracking a runway, so that route is probably a little sensitive there. In any case, let's update the takeoff briefing. So, taking off using 50 degrees flex temperature, and our takeoff speeds are going to be 128, 133, 142, all set. We're in flaps 11.5 and the slats are extended. The sit straight ahead to the Golf point and then a right turn out. Initially 210 knots, which means we can retract the flaps, but we gotta keep the slats. In case of an engine failure, on the runway track, 25 miles, climbing 3000, that keeps us safe over the water, and then we can come back as needed. Weather is good over here, and basically everywhere along the coastline. Okay, and that's it. Any questions? She doesn't seem to care too much. Okay, taxi checklist. TRI ART off. Speedbox set. Flight guidance system set. Flight controls checked. Flap slats 15 and extended. Takeoff briefing reviewed. Taxi checklist
0,
complete.
1.
Okay, and we're clear to line up runway 01. Cabin crew, prepare for departure.
On runway 01.
Okay, before takeoff checklist. Trims 0, 0 and set. Fuel heater off, APU air off, pneumatic thrust feeds closed. Brake temperature is checked. Engine ignition both and EOAP checked. Before takeoff checklist complete. Are you ready to go? Okay, sounds good. Takeoff. Auto throttle on. Power set. Clamp. 80 knots. Checked. Very, very quiet here. Something that I'm not that happy with. V1. Rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. Engage nav. And no guys, don't worry. Your audio did not fail. It is indeed that quiet. Something that I really don't like. Cause the real airplane would never be that quiet. Okay, select VNAV. Autopilot on. Okay, flaps retract. Speed check. Flaps retract. That looks much better. And sounds much better as well, doesn't it? Really gotta say, the scenery looks awesome over here, doesn't it? Alright, enough screenshots, let's go back into the cockpit. So, climb thrust is already selected, we're still accelerating here. Now the yoke is blocking the display a little bit. We can get rid of that. So you kind of got to imagine your own yoke now. But I really think that's a little bit better to be able to see all your flight instruments down here. Okay, so let's continue our climb to something about 20,000 or so. So, Alt, and we're in VNAV capture already. Let's just hit VNAV one more time. So, VNAV climb is selected, FMS EPR. So, one more look down here at Cartagena. And that's it. Okay, so we gotta maintain the speed restriction for another 6 miles or so until Ilmik. Thereafter we can continue to accelerate. So, with that, the flaps will stay extended for a little bit, or rather the slats will stay extended for a little bit, which means that everything, including the after takeoff checklist, gets a little bit delayed. However, it is still a good idea just to check the cabin pressurization, because you really want to make sure that the cabin is pressurizing. The easiest way to check that is to have a look at the differential pressure, which is now like 1.8 or so. So the differential pressure is increasing, and that's the best check to see if your cabin is pressurizing. If you just look at whether the cabin is climbing, that may always happen if the aircraft is unpressurized at the time. So always keep that in mind. Right, let's go for a slightly larger range on the TCAS down here. So, quick check while we're at it. Estimated time of arrival 2024, and according to the flight plan, 2024 is the schedule. Wow, we are good. I didn't know we were that good. Alright then, passing Ilmik. We easily met the above 4,000 restriction, so we can now continue to accelerate. Slats retract. Speed check, slats retract. Okay, after takeoff checklist. So, brake temperature is checked, landing gear up, no lights, flaps and slats up and retracted, engine ignition off, fuel tank pumps 4 on, and altimeter to go after takeoff checklist complete. So let's also turn the ART back on. Well, and with that we are on the way. Around an hour and a bit to go. So I'd say for the time being, since we don't have all that much more to do, we are going to climb to, or we are going to fly to some higher terrain areas. So for that reason I am going to switch the terrain display on down here. Come on, here we go. Alright then. Approaching 10,000. Lights off. Well, it really doesn't look too turbulent up there, does it? No, not really. Okay, so seatbelts auto and fuel pumps are on. We are already monitoring 1 to 1.5. Well, that's everything done. So let's fast forward this a little bit and enjoy the beautiful terrain outside. And then I see you a little bit later when we start the arrival preparation and the approach into Bogota. So let's start to set the MD-80 up for our arrival into Bogota. So we are going to start getting out a couple of charts. The weather was clear enough that I'm rather happy to go for the charts without even checking the exact weather again. So Bogota, and we're looking for the taxi charts and the parking stand charts. And just to be sure that these are the correct ones, yeah, that's the national apron down here. So I'm happy with that. Now, let's go ahead and have a look into the arrival. So we're flying via the Atana for Echo arrival. So here we go. And then our arrival is going to be the ILS Zulu approach, runway 14 right, which we can pin down here. Perfect, so that's all the necessary charts pinned, and we can pin the minimum alts as well. So starting on the arrival chart itself then, let's have a look. From Atana above 18,000 we're going by a floaty, max 270, below flight level 230. And for that we can bring up the plan mode. So we have Atana above 18,000 and floaty below level 230. Let's zoom that in a little bit more. And then we continue via Mariquita VOR between 17,000 and 19,000 and via a couple of ANAV points onto the point merge, which eventually ends at Amvest down here. And if we look at the arrival, that's pretty much exactly what we've got over here. Ending up at Amvest, and from there we join the final for Romeo 14 right. We do have that one on the ILS chart over here. So that's from Amvest via Bogota VOR onto the final approach, starting in 10,000 feet, 3-degree glide path. Remember, 10,000 is just around 1,500 above the ground, so that's fairly close. So energy management is going to be key today. And the minimum is 8,600, which we can already pre-select over here. So 8,600 is pre-selected. The approach itself is in here and looking good. And in case of missed approach, we continue to 15.5 DME Bogota. And that one, so Romeo heading 15.5, then turn right to Sacha VOR, maximum 185 until finishing the turn, cross the VOR at 11,000 or above, and then intercept the radial outbound to Alpha Bravo Lima and hold at 14,000. So we got Bogota 15, Sierra Oscar Alpha, 185 knots above 11,000, and then to Alpha Bravo Lima, 14,000. That's looking good. Then going over to the descent page, let's go ahead and do a couple inputs over here, especially the forecast winds. So we've got 310, 200, and 100. So let's view that on the flight plan up here in the EFF. Strolling probably all the way down. No, not here, not here. Here we go. Right, descent. Flight level 310, 229 at 10. Then flight level 200 is 144 at 2 and level 100, 282 at 3. So pretty much like that. Alright, perfect. And that's everything entered over here. We are going to do an arrival using flaps 40 for sure, since we want to minimize our speed on the final approach due to the high elevation. Then let's head right back into the charts. So ILS frequency 110.7. The course is 135. Here we go, and here we go. And the minimum is 8,200, that's inserted already. Runway elevation 8,348. We've got 8,340 in here right now. So MCDU message, reset FGCP altitude. Well, and with that, our setup is already completed. So let's say bye-bye to our passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, from Flight this is your captain speaking. We will start our descent towards Bogota in the next couple of moments, and the remaining flight time is now in the region of approximately 20 to 25 minutes. The weather in Bogota, fairly nice. Temperatures around 20 degrees. Thank you very much for choosing Avianca for today's flight. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we look forward to welcoming you on board a future service. Thank you very much for your attention. Alright, that's our passengers dealt with. Then let's do a quick version of a briefing. Perfect, so long point merge arrival, Atana 4 Echo for an ILS Zulu approach Romeo 14 right. Minimum 8,600, in case of go around straight at 15.5 Bogota, then a right turn out. and via the VORs 185 knots on the turn to finally 14,000 feet. I don't have any threats, and we do have extra fuel. Arriving with 3.5, the minimum 3.0, so 500 kilos, that equals, well, around about 10 minutes. Perfect, we'll fly the approach using the glide slope and flight director guidance. I have no threats for this one, and we have no specials. Leaving flight level 360 now. So, in case of go-arounds, we talked about that. We are going to use config full, respectively 40 for the landing, and we got to remember to actually set flaps 15 in the dial of flap selector. Like that. Well, and that's it. Questions? No? Perfect. So, hydraulic pumps are on, and I think we've done everything. Go-around is selected on the TRI. Then let's do the descent checklist, please. Approach and landing briefing, performed, flight guidance system set, TRI, go around, landing data confirmed, speedbox. We can quickly reset those. So, speedbox set, altimeters 1013 for the time being. Hydraulic system, aux trends high, and pressurization is checked, descent checklist complete. Alright then, see you a little bit later in the approach. So we're now in the approach, we're passing 16,000, we can already turn the landing lights on. Remember, we're just 8,000 AGL over here. So the lights are on, the signs are on, the cabin crew is already advised, and now things start to get really interesting. So first things first, we can see on the first officer's MD, where we've got the weather radar up, that there's a little bit of weather ahead. So what I'm gonna do, I want the weather as part of flying, because weather is something dynamic. Terrain is not, so let's give the FO the terrain display, and I want to go on to the weather display, since that's the really interesting thing down here. We're flying direct to Amvers now, and after that we're going to join the final 13,000 in Amvers, which we have already selected. Now, energy management is going to be one of the key factors on this approach. We've always got to remember, we are doing 270 knots right now, which is rather quick, to be honest, seeing that we're 8,000 AGL. Then again, birds aren't gonna fly levels AGL, and this is not the kind of weather where you'd see VFR traffic, so we don't have to be worried about that kind of stuff. Therefore, I'm quite happy to actually accept that speed. Could, of course, change it back manually anytime, but for the time being, I'm happy with this. VNAV is leveling off now, and once we're level, I am gonna start to reduce the speed manually. So, could actually do that now already, dial it down towards 250 down here. Alright, so speed 250, vertical speed, and you can give me 1,000 feet a minute here for the level off. And we have alt capture. Now, the most interesting thing on this arrival is going to be our ground speed, so always gotta have a look at this. We are doing more or less 250 knots now, but our ground speed is still 320, and that is going to stay like this for a pretty long time. So, with our field elevation in 8,000 feet and an outside temperature of 20 degrees, we're flying in ISA plus a lot conditions. ISA plus 15, plus 20-ish. So it is hot and high. And the MD-80 is not exactly known to be an aircraft that reduces speed easily. So lots of things for us to consider. Also, let's have another quick look into the weather conditions. I did request the weather just a few moments ago. Here it is. So from 1925, that is, well, 50 minutes old, but they only updated hourly over here, so that's kind of okay. 300 at 15. In other words, it is a tailwind component, but that's the standard they do over here. We have like 12 knots of tailwind. The aircraft's certified for 15, so we can do this, but we're simply going to be fast. There's no doubt about that. Now, once we are past Amves in 4 miles, we're going to continue our descent, and I will start taking the speed back now already towards 220, so that we get onto the conservative side here for our approach. We can see on the DME that we are only 22 miles out from the airport now, and still doing 300 knots ground speed, which is the one large thing to consider on this arrival. Okay, so, approach checklist please. Cabin signs, on and on, fuel system, set, altimeters and bugs are cross-checked. Approach checklist complete. So, approaching Amves, after that we are going to descend to, let's see what it is, 10.8, so let's make it 11,000. Okay, clamp IIS. 15 miles out, 280 knots ground speed. That's to consider, for sure. My general plan is to get the aircraft down to the platform. So remember, we start the approach out of 10,000 at 5 dm from the ILS. However, at the center fix, we gotta have 10,800. So the center fix is the one that we're inbound to at the moment, and basically now that we have only 1,000 to go, I will start to reduce our speed here. So let's go vertical speed 1,000, ultrasound, and let's extend. Speed check.
Altimeter 7.
Yeah, the altimeter setting is fine, no need to complain about that.
Altimeter 7.
Alright, thanks Ras, gotta turn you off. Might get a RAS fail message here, but it doesn't look like it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so reducing airspeed, 13 miles out and 250 knots, but we will be level in a few moments, so then the speed is going to reduce rather quickly. But by the time we intercept the glide slope, I want to have 160 knots, so that we really know, okay, we can manage that energy. Look at this, passing 200 knots and ground speed still 240. So when you fly an approach like this, that's probably the most important thing to take away here. You basically don't look at the speed indicator, you look at the ground speed. You want to know how fast you're going over the ground. Okay, flaps 15. And that is the most important thing about flying an approach like this. Alright, so ILS armed, localizer capture, and let's go over into the localizer arc mode here so that we still have the weather radar up. Okay, localizer alive, glide slope capture, go around altitude 14,000 set. Gear down. 8 miles, 190 knots, so that is pretty quick. Alright, flaps 28. Come on. Here we go, flaps 28. And then 127 knots VREF, so 132 will be our approach speed. Flaps 40. Speed check, flaps 40. And auto brake armed. So runway heading 135, go around altitude 14,000. TRI is set to go around, ignition is on. Temperature 13, so we don't need anti-ice. Okay, final checklist. Landing gear, down 3 green. Flaps and slats, 40 land. Speed brakes, armed, engine ignition, both EOAP checked. Final checklist complete. Alright, so, established on the final. Now we've just got to wait for the airport to come in sight, but I'd say now is a good moment to disengage the autopilot. And let's get rid of the yoke again so that we can see our instruments properly. And from here on, I am going to commence the approach manually. So, note, 132 knots indicated, 155 knots ground speed. So that's your hot and high airport. Interesting sound loop that we hear here. Okay, we are stable at 1000. There's our runway. We are right on the puppy. A little bit right of center line, correcting that. Which is interesting, seeing that we were exactly on the localizer. 5 knots of tailwind, so we are within limits for the landing at the moment. But we could possibly get an increase in tailwind. Especially on a hot and high airport like this one. Gotta be careful with that.
500.
But I don't just want to add speed for no reason.
400.
She's just sitting there, probably thinking, yeah, Captain, you'll do this.
300. 200.
Right, the tailwind is increasing right now. Auto thrust is coping with it.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Perfect. Alright, spoilers, reverse green. Decel, 100 knots. 80 knots. We'll skip this exit, we'll take the next one. Manual brakes. Auto brake disarm. Here we go, my friends. Welcome to Bogota. Now that was a good landing. I'm really happy with that. Okay, vacating right down here. And then we've got to follow the left-hand line here. And while we're doing that, let's clean the aircraft up. So they want us to keep the flaps on 15 until we reach the gate. Okay, after landing checklists. Flap slats, 15 extended, speed brakes retracted, engine ignition off. Pitot and static heaters off, anti-ice off, radar off, after landing checklist complete. So, that was an interesting one, wasn't it? Parking on stand 86 today. So, let's grab GSX. Ramp, I guess? Gotta hate it when they have no proper names for their parking positions. But I have to admit, this is pretty nice integration here, having the GSX menu up here. So, 86, medium with a jetway, no follow me needed, handling by Avianca, and that's it. It's nice, isn't it? Okay, let's add a little bit of thrust. You can see how high our idle N1 is anyway here. Like 36%-ish. That really means we don't have much margin for our taxi. Also, I don't want to go above 40% N1. If we can avoid it by any means. If we can't avoid it, okay. But normally we should be able to. Alright, I don't see any more obstacles here, so let's retract the flaps. And the speed brakes. So the APU is available. One more gate to go. APU master switches are on. Alright, gate 86 is the next one. So retracting the slats. You got to use a fairly significant oversteering with the MD-80 because of the location of the main wheels that are so far aft on the aircraft. That's why it looks like you're taxiing a 777 here, even though the MD-80 isn't any bigger than a 737 or A320. Alrighty. Come on. Here we go. Parking brake is set. The APU is switched on the bus. Alright. Shutdown 1, shutdown 2. And here we are, parking checklist. Fuel tank pumps, 1 on for the APU, hydraulics, auxiliary and standby. Off and parking brake pressure set checked, parking checklist complete. Well my friends, and that's it. Welcome to Bogota. I do hope you all enjoyed this one in the Leonardo Fly the Mad Dog MD-80. Beautiful aircraft, absolutely study level, and really one to enjoy for a lot of excellent, and with that I mean really excellent flights. Highly recommendable aircraft. It is somewhat on the expensive side, and it is still in beta, but I couldn't really see any obvious bugs, except for the GSX bugs we had with the interaction. But in my opinion, fully recommendable aircraft, lots of joy to fly. But now it's up to you. Tell me how you like this one. Leave your feedback in the comments underneath the video, and as always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. And if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.